welcome to Freak Show Freak Out episode 11, the first episode of 2015. I hope your New Year's was great. I hope it wasn't too long of a wait for the new episode of American Horror Story Freak Show. 3 weeks is a long time, let me tell you. The episode was called Magical Thinking, and it featured none other than the amazing Neil Patrick Harris. I'm a huge fan of his, obviously, if you can't tell. So Neil's character's name is Chester, and at first glance he seemed like a stand-up guy. He's a salesman who enjoys doing magic as a hobby, and he tries to sell his act to Elsa, but of course they're a freak show, they're not a magic act. When she sees that he's good with numbers, she hires him. But of course this is American Horror Story, and of course it's not what it seems. And you kind of get that something's off right off the bat. But it gets more noticeable when he pulls out his dummy named Marjorie. While I was watching this episode, and I didn't read any spoilers about it or anything, but while I was watching the episode, the voice of the doll was just so familiar to me. And I was like, it's gotta be her, it's gotta be her. And it turns out that it's actually Jamie Brewer. Obviously you guys would remember her from season 1 and season 3. I don't quite remember if she was in season 2, but for sure 1 and 3. So the more the episode progresses, the more we realize that Chester is bat crazy. He hallucinates that the doll is real, and when the doll is real in his head, it's Jamie Brewer playing the real doll. Chester got injured in the war, and he has a metal plate in his head, and I guess the side effect of that being in his head is that he hallucinates the doll being real. He is convinced that she's real. He murdered his wife and his wife's girlfriend. They had an affair, and he really believes that the doll killed them, not him. Anyway, Chester is very taken by Bet and Dot, and they are very taken by him. And they get to know each other. They become his assistants for his magic act, and they end up hooking up. They showed Neil Patrick Harris's ass, you guys. I mean, that literally on American Horror Story, that's like the highest honor you can get. So I think it's safe to say maybe he'll be back next season. Maybe, one can hope. Moving on to the other plot of the episode. If you remember 3 weeks ago, the last we saw of Maggie and Desiree, they were at the museum where Stanley was taking the freaks and the freaks' body parts, and one thing that we saw at the end was that the crab hands were there. We just didn't know how they got there. So basically, Stanley manipulated Jimmy into giving up his hands, promising that he'll use his hands to pay for a lawyer. But obviously he was just swindling him. Jimmy's father Del manages to track him down and sees that his hands are gone and tells Jimmy that he's a bad man, but Jimmy refuses to believe that he got swindled like that. There's a very touching moment between the father and son, and Dad feeds his son for the first time ever. It was so sweet, and it almost made me forget what Del did to my petite. When Del returns to the tent, he is confronted by Eve. If you guys remember, they had basically a fist fight a few episodes back because Del was trying to kill her for Stanley, and obviously that didn't work. However, Del and Eve, they put aside their differences to rescue Jimmy and break him out of prison. He was obviously in the hospital when he had the surgery to get his hands removed. The police drive him back, and before they can get back to the prison, Eve throws a rock through the window, and Del beats up the cops, and they take Jimmy to an unknown location, which is still unknown. So all those sweet gestures by Del almost made me forget what he did to Ma Petite. However, Maggie and Desiree return, knowing what he did. Desiree confronts him with a gun, pointing out that she knows that he's killed his own. And Maggie, I guess they brought back Ma Petite's body in the jar, and Elsa is obviously very distraught over it. Del confesses to Desiree that yes, he killed Ma Petite. Before he can get another word in, Elsa shoots him through the back of the head. That's how they ended the episode. I gotta bring back to Chester's storyline because that's not all that happened with him earlier. His doll Marjorie actually goes missing in the episode, and Dandy is behind it. He found out from his police friend who Chester was and what his story was, and was very intrigued to meet him. Eventually, Chester finds Marjorie the doll, and she is very upset that he slept with Bet and Dot. He begs for her forgiveness, but she wants him to kill someone, which I'm assuming will happen in next episode. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode, mainly because of Neil Patrick Harris, obviously. I think the only thing I didn't like and it's not that big of a deal, was that everything seemed kind of rushed at the end. Like, a lot happened in the last 5 minutes, and they could have saved it for another episode, but I mean, it just felt like, okay, let's quickly shove Maggie and Desiree back in at the end of the episode and just kill Del off. The pacing has been a little bit off this year, but you know, I've still enjoyed the season overall, but the pacing has been a little bit weird. Sometimes the stories seem to be moving really slowly this season, other times it's just moving almost too fast. It's like they couldn't find the balance this season, but I'm still really enjoying the show. I give this episode 4 scary clown heads out of 5. I enjoyed it. Again, I want to wish everyone a happy new year. I hope you guys had fun on your New Year's Eve and partied the night away, and I hope you guys set some really cool resolutions this year for yourselves. Me personally, I just want to be happy and healthy. So I will see you next week for the next episode of Freak Show Freakout. See you guys later.